Today we are going to be talking about the power of proficiency scales. My name is Shauna Stefanchik. I am the president and founder of Step Up Consulting, and I'm bringing you this information today. So really what I wanted to discuss today very quickly in about 10 minutes is just calibrate on a definition for proficiency scales and the purpose they can bring. Talk a little bit about the why and importance behind proficiency scales. I'd like to leave participants with ideas of proficiency scale development tips, talk about how you can use scales, the various formats that are out there, and then at the end, share with you some Missouri scales that are available to educators in our state through my company. So let's start with what are proficiency scales. This is a screenshot of a book by Jan Hogue, who is one of the big authors with Robert Marzano. And so I took this definition from there. Proficiency scales are a tool that displays a collection of related learning targets and scores for determining a student's current level of performance. And you'll see underneath that, it also discusses what are learning progressions, and those are going to be a series of set of learning goals. So when students aren't able to master proficiency at a level 3, learning progressions are also part of proficiency scales. So this next slide is just a template of what a proficiency scale can look like. You can see on the left-hand side, there's a 4, 3, 2, 1. It tells you the key things that should be in the 4, the 3, 2, and 1. 3 is typically proficient on grade level, what a student should be able to do. And you'll notice under the 2, it has vocabulary and those missing prerequisite skills, whereas progressions fit into. The level 4 is how you can, that fourth corollary PLC question, how do we continue to stretch students? And that's where in a scale you say, if a student is going above grade level and maybe even next into the grade level ahead of them, this is what would happen there. And this is a unique format that I like and I've used for my things that really helps bring clarity is when you even provide assessment examples beside each one of those levels, it really helps provide clarity for teachers. So what are the reflection and purpose of proficiency scales? I'm going to stop here on the call. I'm going to make sure there's no other participants who are waiting to get in and see if anybody on the call would like to share what do we think are really the purpose of proficiency scales. But the purpose of proficiency scales, especially if you have been following the standards-based work competency groups, that is a key for really making sure that students are self-assessment capable learners, that they're able to monitor their own learning. And so it also helps teachers really know the difference between a proficient and approaching. A common practice is that teachers are unintentionally teaching below the rigor of the standards, which can be a problem. So we understand the why behind proficiency scales, that they can really provide a clear idea of standards, and they can give students clarity in what they should be doing. When you have great proficiency scales, you can also create high quality unit assessments. You can clarify cognitive thinking skills required for a student to become proficient in that level 2. And again, in the level 2, you can realize those things you need to do to scaffold students. And with any proficiency scale or any resource that you're using, we always want to make sure that you're utilizing protocols to use them efficiently. So here, on these next couple slides, I just wanted to show some various formats of what proficiency scales can look like. You can see on this one, they even do the 0.5s, and then they make it into a learning template where you can have suggested activities, accommodations, modifications. Another example, it's a little meteor. It goes ahead and throws in some standard codes and also some Marzano language about some mental or cognitive strategies like comprehension, retrieval, executing as well in there. Here's some other examples of where For Missouri, they've taken some math standards and just used some of those expanded definitions to help provide more clarity in the level of what that would look like, some question stems, and then what proficient questions would look like. I am a big fan of providing examples of what assessment questions look like to bring clarity for students. So if you're doing this with teachers and you were hoping to create proficiency scales, here are the steps you could follow. You always want to determine the topic of the scale if you're doing fractions or main idea. And it's best to always start with the language in the 3.0. Really unwrap that standard and then go back for the vocabulary in the level 2. And one of the trickiest parts becomes in the level 2.0 to really help teachers decide what's the simple thinking strategies and then more complex that students need to do as a prerequisite to progress up to the level 3. Once you've done the 3 and the 2, then you can go back up to the level 4. And sometimes you might want to look at the standard at the grade level above to help you do that. Above all else, if you're engaging in this work, it's always very beneficial to develop an exemplar together. You can work through those 5 steps that I shared with you, which happen to be similar to Marzano's, and just really revise and create some anchors for your teams. Now, if that process seems too arduous, which I think it is a needed process, but is something that's also available to you is the Missouri Assessment and Teaching Tool Handbook that's being released. In this book, it actually has vertical progressions. You can see we've got the topic here. This particular scale actually shows teachers how their MLS build, these bolded ones being the priority standards that Missouri chose. And then I want to go ahead and highlight for you the format used in these documents. You've got your 4, 3, 2, 1 scale on the side, a proficiency scale at the top. But really what happens here is you can see even under the level 4, you have a sample question. Under the level 3, what happens on this document is not only is it unwrapped on the scale side, it also has items from Missouri resources, the item specs. Let's see if I can go to the next slide here. It's got things hyperlinked in from map practice tests, from MoBlocks. And again, it's going to give you these specifics. This is what really brings clarity for teachers when they can look an assessment question and determine what really does a proficient student have to be able to do. And so that's why I love this format that really brings clarity for teachers. And again, you can see under the level 2, we've got vocabulary, but it really goes above and beyond. Even if we go into the next slide, where if a student's not conquering that, here are some strategies you could try. An anchor chart you could use with students, and even some videos to help build content knowledge for teachers. One of the things that we found with learning loss is teachers want to know what to do to help students, but sometimes they don't. So being able to provide them with a tool aligned to their standards, as it shows on the left and the right side here, of what could you go back and teach to help scaffold and support that student to mastery is very helpful. So that was my quick blurb for what are proficiency scales, how you could do those in your district, or if you want to fast track that work, we do have a tool available now, digitally and hard copy, that educators can purchase to really help with that work. That is my information if you need it. So if you are wanting to engage in this work, I need help creating proficiency scales, or would like to purchase those, you can let me know. I'm going to go ahead and stop the call here and open it up for those of you.